Seamus did agree, after spending some time in Mighty Oak, but he just could not see any way around it. Seamus was very upset and jumped to the other end of the enclosure. Petra went to follow. Coco said warmly, grabbing her arm, "I think he needs to be alone right now." It was 6:45 and the Whites had just got home. "Are you all right with something quick for dinner, Ron?" "What do you have in mind, Rose?" Ron was sorely disappointed. This was the only thing he disliked about days out. He always missed out on a proper meal. He worked hard all week, had been driving all day, so a proper meal wasn't much to ask for. He knew it was going to be beans on toast or egg on toast. He was proper fed up. "Will you pick, Rose? I don't mind." Rose was smirking to herself. She recalled countless conversations on this very subject. Unbeknown to Ron, Rose had prepared his favourite liver and bacon casserole for dinner. It was in the fridge, ready. All Rose had to do was heat it up and boil the prepared potatoes. "All right, Ron, it will be about 40 minutes. Thank you." Ron unpacked the car. "Mark, can you help Daddy?" Ron went to pack the balls, bat and toys away in the trunk. "Oh, Mark, I wish you could be careful putting things away." "What, Daddy?" asked Mark. Stood behind his father with the football in his arms. "Just be careful." Mark's lips started to twitch. His eyes filled with tears. He didn't know what he'd done wrong. He hadn't touched the trunk. He was still holding the ball in his arms. Ron was now on the floor, kneeling down, muttering away to himself. Rose said, "What's the matter, Ron?" "Nothing. Just telling Mark to be more careful when he puts things away." "Mark, Daddy's not cross. Just be more careful." Rose looked at Mark, now crying, clutching the ball in his arms. He was so sad. He'd had a lovely day, and now Daddy was cross. It was all spoilt. "Ron, what's the matter?" "The cup of counters all over the place." "It's all right. I've sorted it. Just make sure it's upright. That's all." "Ron, Mark still has the ball." Ron turned around. "Oh, Mark." He felt so bad. He took the football and placed it in the trunk, promptly picked Mark up. "I'm sorry." "It's all right, Daddy." He held on to his daddy so tight, arms locked around his neck. "Mark, do you know what? I must have knocked the beaker over when I got the games out earlier. Look, Daddy hadn't even closed it." "Mark, I've an idea. How does a bag of sweets sound tomorrow when Daddy gets his paper?" "Ron!" Rose tutted at her husband. Ron put Mark down, winked at him, and ruffled his hair. "Rose, what's that I smell?" "Oh, yes, liver and bacon casserole." Ron grinned at his wife, went over and kissed her cheek. Timmy, Boris, and the Major were all bright and early Monday morning, awaiting Mighty Oak's next instructions. "Good morning, everyone. Now, Boris, my boy, Thursday evening is the plan for you to go home." It was quiet. The mood was quite subdued. The Major had got used to running his little school. He'd grown fond of this noisy monkey, had loved being an integral part of this mission. Timmy was thinking how much he would miss Boris. Boris was so conflicted, confused about all his feelings. He wanted to go home. However, he loved being here. And Timmy, I'm sure you and the Major can visit Boris. "Yes, please, will you, Major, will you?" "Timmy, I think that can most definitely be arranged," replied the Major. Mighty Oak. The Major never questioned Mighty Oak's motives. However, this had been playing on his mind. "I keep thinking about Seamus, young fellow. Done a lot for us. Seems jolly unfair on the lad to go home." Mighty Oak seemed to dismiss the question. He merely said Seamus will be fine. Well, this statement did not make Boris or the Major feel any more relieved. "Now, where are we, Major?" "Well, Boris has a great understanding of basic mathematics." Boris felt quite indignant. Basic indeed. I'm flipping good at maths. Basic. I can add, subtract. He felt indignant. English again very good. Spelling exceptional. Well, that's more like it, thought Boris. Also, his art is good. That's great. Well, I think just mornings up till Wednesday. Just cover things you've been working on. One more small thing, Major. You were worried about Mark's drawing pad using too many pages. Well, no worry on that score. I heard Rose say she was going to buy some more drawing pads in a sale in Woolworths. Thank you, Mighty Oak. Yes, I was worried about that. Thursday you can relax as Boris's departure. Thursday evening. You ready, boys? Yes, sir. Come on then. Boris and Timmy followed the Major to the upper branches. Early evening, Mark's friends came round to play whilst there was no grown-ups around. Mighty Oak gave the 3 boys one of their most important jobs he had ever given them. The 3 boys promised the mighty tree they would do this important mission. Timmy watched as the 3 boys huddled together, pressing against Mighty Oak's great trunk. I love you, Mighty Oak. What would we ever do without you? Thursday arrived. There was a strange atmosphere, all the little creatures pretending to be happy, but actually feeling sad that this exciting time of this little monkey was coming to an end. Yes, this noisy little monkey was going to be missed. He was small, but he had made a big impression. Timmy had arrived ridiculously early, 5 a.m. Boris wasn't even awake, but Timmy wanted the day to seem as long as possible. The Major this time would accompany the wood pigeons, so he knew the way to the zoo. Timmy agreed with Mighty Oak he would stay here as it would be too upsetting for him and Boris. He promised Boris he would visit soon as he wanted to see Seamus as well. Boris had said it didn't matter, Seamus would be back in Scotland. Timmy just smiled. They spent their last day playing. They sang songs Seamus had taught them. There was a particular one Seamus loved. Fred had taught him. It was a theme song to a new program called The Monkeys. Mighty Oak finished talking to the Major and heard them singing. Get the funniest looks from everyone we meet. This was beautiful to hear them all singing together. They suggested games. Again, Timmy had an idea. He promptly placed his fingers into Boris's mouth. Boris proceeded to bite, not hard, just enough so it was difficult for Timmy to remove his hand, which he eventually did. Boris suddenly threw his arms around his friend. He gave him such a hug. You remembered my game, Timmy. Timmy smiled and held on to Boris so tight. I know what we can play. Timmy excitedly told them about a game he and Andrew had invented. It was called Don't Say It. You play in pairs. One player answered and one writes the answer. Draws the answer. You have 30 seconds to answer a trivia question to guess what your partner's drawing. If the person drawing doesn't know the answer, you miss a turn. Each round the partners swap places. Boris and Timmy were eager to play. However, as Mighty Oak pointed out, it wasn't fair on the animals who couldn't write. They agreed, so they played hide-and-seek instead. Mighty Oak had arranged a special tea because it was a treat, a special treat because it was also because they would need energy for the journey ahead. They all tapped into this. It was really nice. Nice as it was, it meant that their time together was soon to be over. This dinner there was no excited chatter. They were quietly talking when Sally and Jimmy, the wood pigeons, arrived to take Boris home. Timmy and Boris both tried their hardest to delay this. One more song, one more game. However, the time had come. The Major, Boris, Sally and Jimmy were ready. Now, Boris, you're sure it's Kevin's shift tonight? Yes. So this time, the same as Seamus, you must get spotted by your enclosure. All right, yes. Sir, and Seamus, sir, how does he leave? Seamus? Seamus stays. What? How? But, Boris, don't worry. Oh, okay. Mighty Oak, thank you so much for everything. All I've ever heard about you is true. I can't ever thank you enough. Boris, it was a pleasure to meet you. Thank you for trusting in me. Boris turned around, panicked. He wanted a last hug with his friend. Timmy, oh, there you are. They hugged for ages, both crying. Goodbye, Timmy. See you soon. Yes, promise. Jimmy, Sally and Boris disappeared through the trees. The Major asked Mighty Oak, You're sure Seamus stays? I mean, Boris back will seem jolly odd. Major, don't worry. Right you are. And with that, he swiftly followed the others, occasionally hearing loud chatting that Boris would do, and then silence.